Today we are going to discuss about data collection. As we have discussed in the last classes regarding the setting up of research problem and how we are going to define the research problem. Then we came out and discussed about how to fix objectives. Then the thorough focus was on to methodological aspects of doing research. Then we have learned about the different research designs. And we have learned about primary data, secondary data, all these things, and where to collect all these things from. So now in this class, mainly our emphasis will be on to different types of data collection. What are the methods that you can use for data collection, all these things that we will be seeing in detail. So data collection, if we are trying to explain about, the task of data collection in fact begins after the research problem has been defined and research design has been developed. All these things that in fact we have explained about all these things. As we all know, data can be classified or bifurcated like into primary data and into secondary data. We have seen what exactly is primary data and what exactly is secondary data. We have in fact explained about these two things in detail in the previous classes. Methods of data collection, if we are trying to focus on these area, the general methods of primary data collection include observation, interview, questionnaire and schedule. These are the four things that we are having. We will be going on to one by one in detail. Primary data collection, if we are thoroughly focusing on observation method, what exactly this is? It is like data collection by watching participants or activities in action. So as the name suggests, the name is like observation method. So this is basically watching participants or activities in action. So in fact this is a process which the major role will be played by our eyes. So the information obtained under this methods relate to what is currently happening, which is collected by the way of investigators' own direct observation without asking anything from the respondent, and only present current behavior can be studied by using this method. This is one way, the advantage of that, and another way this is the disadvantage of the same thing too. Why? Because only we can get into access to current happenings alone, and we probably may not be asking anything to the respondent, and mere by observing what is happening currently, that we may be concluding about that. So this explains about the observation method. So an example, if you could, for that, a ruling was made by the court prohibiting smoking in public places. So if you want to just catch hold of that, only way is that, if you want to know who all are smoking in public places, the observer can stand on a street or some other public places and observe who all are smoking. So direct method, by using our eyes and respond, the observer or the researcher himself may sometimes go for merely directly observing things. Types of observation, we are in fact having three types of observation: structured versus unstructured observation, natural versus contrived observation, disguised versus non-disguised observation. Disguised versus non-disguised, the respondent do not know that they are being observed. Because without the information of the respondent that we may be observing him and we may be collecting the information what we want. By using one-way mirrors, hidden camera, inconspicuous mechanical devices like that. So sometimes one-way mirror in the sense because the person who is being observed will not be knowing that he is observed, because that side of a mirror will be having the exact reflection of just like you are viewing a mirror. So your own reflection will be seen from that, but behind the person who is standing behind the glass can observe you very closely. Then hidden cameras, we all know, because in shops and all, hidden cameras will be kept, and inconspicuous mechanical devices in order to judge your motion, in order to judge your behavior and all, may be kept somewhere without the notice of you. So these respondents are non-disguised observation. These respondents are well aware that they are being observed. The basic example, it is invigilators observing the students inside an examination hall. We will be knowing, if we are writing an examination, we will be knowing that we are being observed. So that this is an example for that. So next aspect is natural versus contrived observation. Natural observation involves observing behaviors as it take place in the environment. Right from the environment where it is occurring, that we may be going directly and we may be observing that. One could observe the behavior of respondents eating fast food in a bakery, in a hotel, or we can observe how people are playing in a playground. All these things, no direct observation. So as and when it happens, that we may be observing. In contrived observation, respondents' behavior is observed in an artificial environment, something like a test kitchen, a test classroom, something like that. So that we may be given an artificial feeling that we are sitting in such a place, and how we are responding in that, it may be observed. Because see, certain natural environment cannot be created, or we may not be having access to such an environment. So in that case and all, what we may be doing is that we may be creating an artificial kitchen, and we may be doing that. For example, kitchen example itself we can take. If we have invented a new gas stove or a new pressure cooker or something, or a new modular installation inside your kitchen, it is very difficult for the manufacturer to install it in various houses. Rather, they will be creating an artificial environment where they will be having a feel of a kitchen, and they will be installing all these electronic or electrical devices there, and you people will be invited there inside to do your cooking. So that what all changes that taking place and how you are behaving in that particular kitchen, everything will be noted as and when it is occurring. So only aspect is that it is not in a natural mood what they will be doing. They will be creating a proper artificial environment, as if you may feel that you are sitting in your own, you are doing some job in your own kitchen. Advantages of observation is that data is more reliable and free from respondent bias. This is an important area because it is more reliable and it is free from respondent bias. So easy to note the effects of environmental influence on specific outcomes. So see, if a person is believed to be behaving in such a manner, sometimes environmental influences can be there on the very higher side. So that that sort of thing, the observer can directly observe these sort of things there directly. So easy to observe certain groups of individuals, very young children, busy executives and all, because without hurting them, without hampering their time. So if you want to observe children and all, it will be very difficult if you are asking some questions to them and all. Rather, if you want to test a toy or a play item or something, you can just give it to them and you can directly feel what they are exactly feeling out of that. So that you can just catch their emotion, catch their expression from the face, and is it having a soothing effect on them, or are they able to play it effectively? All these things directly that you can observe. If we are going on to the disadvantage part of that, the first one is that physical presence at any cost is a must. So it is tedious and expensive. Why? Because if you want to observe a thing, you cannot artificially create it to happen, because in majority of the cases, as and when it take place, that you need to observe it. So that it is a very tedious job, and moreover it is very expensive also, because you cannot predict when an incident will happen. So that you need to wait patiently and you need to observe that. Due to long periods of observation, observer fatigue could easily set in. This fatigue can result in an observer bias rather than a respondent bias. So moods, feeling and attitude may affect the observation. The mood, feeling of the observer can affect the observation, and obviously if you want to observe certain thing, training is a must for that. So these are the disadvantages of that. So the next important aspect in that is observation part is over. Next important thing is the first one is interview and second one is questionnaire, and the last and final item will be schedule. Schedule and questionnaire is almost the same. Only difference is that how you are collecting the information from. So first one we are going to see about the interview method. Interview method in the sense we might have exposed to various type of interviews. You might have seen several interviews in televisions, in radio, direct interviews while we are sitting in front of an interview panel, all these things that we have seen. So for the basic purpose of research data collection, what all are the interview method that we are having, we are going to just have a look onto that. So any person-to-person interaction between two or more individuals with a specific purpose in mind is called an interview. So this is very important here. So interaction between two or more persons should be there, two individuals with a specific purpose in mind is called an interview. So interview is a purposeful exchange of ideas, answering of questions, and communications between two or more persons. Different definitions are there, so that two people usually will be involved in an interview process. The one will be the interviewer and the another one is called the interviewee. So the first item that we are going to see is something called structured interview. So in that, the researcher asks a predetermined set of questions using the same wording and order as specified in the interview. So why this is called a structured interview is that researcher will ask only predetermined set of questions. So the interviewer may be sitting and doing research on what all things should be asked, and he may be having a collection of questions, and in a sequential flow also will be there within his hand, so that it usually may be a predetermined set of questions using the same wording and order as specified in the interview. So that order, sequence, when to ask, where to ask, in what modulation it should be asked, everything will be predetermined. So that is why it is called a structured interview. Advantages of that is increases response rate and the quality of answers, because see, you may be asking very defined, very oriented and very focused questions, so that usually the answers also will be like that. So quality questions, quality answers are also expected. So uniformity will be there, because of the same type of question you may be asking to multiple respondents, so that chances are there that the answers may be uniform in some way or the other. Then comparability will be made easier. Same questions, what answers are being told by the respondents, it may be very easy for you to compare, since the questions what you are asking is almost the same. Unstructured interview. അതൊന്ന് കട്ട് ചെയ്യണേ. ഇപ്പൊ വേണ്ട ഞാൻ വിൻഡോയുടെ ഇത് എഴുതി കാണിക്കണം. വിൻഡോസ്. Unstructured interview or life history interview. So also known as an in-depth interview, where the interviewer develops an interview guide, in fact. Within this, the interviewer formulates questions spontaneously during an interview. So these are the types of interview that you may usually see in televisions and all, because how to if we try to interview a political personality, if we try to interview a film personality or any artistic people, that if we are trying to interview them, what we may be doing is that the interview guide that we will be initially developing, and the spontaneity will be involved in that. From the answer we may shoot another one, and some sort of direction that the interviewer may be having, but again the interviewer formulate questions very spontaneously during an interview. So as and when you get a bite from that, immediately that you may be asking directly from that. So can go in depth into the topic. So one aspect is that can focus to the interest of the interviewer, more like let the interviewee speak. That may be the angle, because because very precisely that you may be asking something, and you will keep on the interview to speak onto the subject, so that more and more information can be collected. So uniformity we cannot expect that. So these type of, and comparability aspect also will be quite less, since you are not asking the same set of questions to different type of respondents. So that aspect or that sort of problems can be expected from that. Next one is direct and indirect interviews. Direct interview, face-to-face contact will be there while interviewing, so sitting one against another. Indirect interview, no face-to-face contact will be there while interviewing, something like a telephonic interview and all. Maybe you may be collecting the required information, but again face-to-face touch will not be there in that case. So observation is over, interview part is also over. So now we are directly coming to the questionnaire part. Especially in social sciences research, the role of questionnaire or the role played by questionnaires in collecting data is very, 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 very important. So we need to keep in mind that all these things are to be there, are to be focused with utmost care. So anybody can construct a questionnaire. Problem issue is that the questions what we are trying to formulate those things, we need to make sure that those questions that we are formulating should give answers for the objectives what we have formulated, and should act as a solution for the research problem what you are trying to formulate in the initial stages. So this is where, so invariably almost all the people who are doing research may be forming some sort of questions here and there, without any proper research onto what all things to be included, what all things are to be excluded, in what form that we should ask. So if we are observing a qualitative parameter, how to quantify that? People will not be knowing about all these things, and invariably we may be inviting several questions to be placed in our questionnaire, and without having any proper homework or something, we may be directly distributing the same thing to the respondent, and without knowing that they may be responding something. And totally, if we try to calculate, if we try to again sum down the results extracted from the questionnaire, sometimes if we try to read the answers, we may not be nowhere near our objectives, or we cannot be in a position to solve our research problem too. So utmost care should be taken in determining, in drafting the questionnaire. So we'll be just going through what all are the important aspects in that. So a questionnaire is a research instrument consisting of a series of questions and other prompts for the purpose of gathering information from the respondents. As you all know, a set of questions designed to generate the data necessary for accomplishing the objective of the research project. So all these things that already that we have explained about that. So now what exactly is the flow? This flow chart will be explaining about that. So these are the objectives what we have formulated, and here if we want to try a box on your left hand side, so research problem, then objectives will be coming. So based on the objectives we may be formulating questionnaire. So this questionnaire will be again given to the respondents, and respondents will give response for the questions what you are asking to them. So those responses will be analyzing and will be trying to find out extract out the major findings from that. This is the flow. So based on objective, we will be formulating this, we will be constructing questionnaires, and questionnaires will be circulated to them. Respondents will give responses to the questionnaire. Those responses will be analyzed, and finally we will be ending up in various findings. So types of questions if we are trying to speak on. So the first one is called open-ended. These are questions where respondents are free to answer, because we may not be giving any options to them. Example like, what factors will you consider while selecting a two-wheeler? It is an open thing. Whatever factors that you are considering, you can just answer that. What made you attracted towards shopping from Reliance Fresh? An open question. So you can give whatever answers that you want to give. So next one is called closed-ended questions. The probable answers will be attached to the questions, and the respondents are supposed to select from the given answers. So respondents, they may be having choice, but a restricted choice that they may be having. So examples like, Are you satisfied with product XYZ? So highly satisfied, satisfied, neutral. These are the probable answers for that. So rank in the order of your priority the factors behind the purchase of product XYZ. You are supposed to rank. All the probable things are given here under. So, and next part is called dichotomous questions. These questions having only two answers are called dichotomous. So either this or that. Use, don't use. Yes or no answers, true or false answers, all these things can be called as dichotomous questions. So, when you are sitting for constructing, for again drafting a questionnaire, the major thing that you need to focus is that you have to avoid double-barreled questions. That means the questions with two parts. Sometimes respondents might agree with one part and disagree with another. Example like, are you satisfied with the price and quality of Bata shoe? So price is again one factor, quality is again with another factor. Sometimes with the quality you may be satisfied, but with the price you may not be satisfied. So, and if you are giving a single option for answering, respondent will be in a totally confused state which answer that he should opt for. So, if you want to ask like this, you need to split this into two questions. So price you need to ask separately and quality also you need to ask separately. So are you satisfied with the design and durability? Again, two things are asked. So that you should not include such sort of things in your questionnaire. So if we are talking about the designing process of questionnaires, the first process in questionnaire designing is that determining the information needed according to the objectives. The first and foremost thing, thoroughly you should understand what are your objectives all about. And you try to read it several times and try to have a sequential flow of your objectives, and you need to, each and every question, if you are adding to the questionnaire, you have to ask, is this having any sort of relevance to the question, to the objective what you are you have already framed. Okay, so first one, determining the information needed according to the objectives. So, what all information that I should have if I want to satisfy my objectives? The first thing that it will be based on that. Second thing is that decide on the type of questions. So, what type of question am I going to ask? The second phase. So, after information needed, information required for you is defined, the second thing will be decided on the type of questions. And third one will be which or what type of wording that I should be used to get the information from. Next one will be decide about the layout of that. It should be aesthetic enough. It should be having a feel-free feeling. You should not again include several questions in one single page without giving any space for answering them. So in an unstructured manner, in a half-assed way, that you should not do things. So the respondent, if he is trying to take the questionnaire in his hand, he also should be having a feeling that, okay, I should give right answers for this. So if you want to do that, it should be very neat, it should be very legible, you should not use hyphen words, you should not use technical jargons, and also it should be very simple. So layout and pre-test and revise it. This is very important because see, the problems of reliability, the problems of validating a questionnaire is there, that we'll be explaining it in the later classes. So the issues with the pre-test is that what all things that you are trying to bring into the questionnaire, so you are not so sure that whether this will answer the right problem, this will try to give solutions for the objective which was formulated by you. So if you are just going for a pilot study, if you are just by taking a few samples, if you try to circulate your questionnaires, then only we will be feeling that what are the problems involved in the questionnaire which which were felt by the respondents. So, and answer wise also, sometimes what we are trying to measure may be totally different from what the respondents has responded to your questionnaire. So all these things should be judged in the initial stage itself, and necessary correction should be taken in such stages itself. So that a pre-test, and based on the pilot study, a pre-test, and you need to revise it accordingly if you are in need for a revision or a change. And the last one will be, after doing the necessary correction onto that, the final questionnaire will be available for you. The final checklist. So each and every question that you need to read it once, you have to ask this: is the question necessary or useful for me? So this question, is it necessary for you or is it useful for you? Second thing, are several questions needed to answer the same problem? How many questions are in fact needed for that? Do respondents have the needed information? Because if a question is asked, the respondent should have at most clarity on what you are going to ask and what answer is again expected in what direction. So is that there or not? Does the question need to be more specific? Some sort of fine tuning is required for that. We want to do that or not? That we need to emphasize on. Is questions sufficiently general? So is it having sufficient information to collect from? Will respondent answer truthfully? So this is the way how you should generate or how you should create questions. So different response format that we are going to explain about. Structured response format, fill in the blanks. A blank line can be used for a number of different response type. Please enter your age. So male, if you are a male, you can enter your age here. If you are a female, you can enter your age here. Fill up the blanks type of thing. Next one is that multiple or choice. Please enter your preference for the following candidates, where 1 is equal to your first choice, 2 is equal to your second choice, and so on. So that no choice will be given, different names will be given, so you need to mention your choice. This is another method, another type. Tick the answer. You can just give a tick mark. Please check if you have the following items on the computer: modem, printer, CD-ROM, so that if you want to make, you can put a tick mark here. Then circle the answer. This is another format. Sometimes the respondent is asked to circle an item to indicate their responses. Usually we are asking them to circle a number. For instance, we might have the following: either a number or an option. Hang to death is the best punishment for murders. So that if you are agreeing, you can just put a circle mark here. Okay. So if you are putting a circle like this, again the answers will be concrete. If you are putting a tick mark, sometimes the end of the tick mark can go to the next option as such. So if you are going on for this, more clarity is involved in this.